And welcome back to part 21 of Final Fantasy XII, where today we'll be talking to the Elder of Omises to hopefully be reinstated as princess so we can try and avoid a war. But, of course, things are never going to be as easy as that. Because, like I keep on reminding you, this is the longest Final Fantasy in the series. That being said, because of the double speed that I've got the whole game running on, there's a good chance I might actually be able to get this project to be just shorter than what Final Fantasy XV was in its entirety. But keep in mind, with Final Fantasy XV, I did every single DLC, plus its extra content, plus a hell of a lot of time in post-game, whilst this, I've kind of... The amount I am doing, like, says I've kind of adopted the rule of thumb of do it as soon as it's available, with the side stuff. Because of how much of it I've done like that, my post-game won't actually be that big. Like, there are a few things that I can do just before the final boss, but there's a couple things that I deliberately want to leave till after the final boss. And the main reason being is that the super bosses are gonna make me want to grind more, and I don't want to be over leveled for the final boss, because I'm already gonna be a little over leveled for the final boss at this rate because of how much of the side stuff I'm doing. So if I can not become god tier before the final boss, I'd prefer it. But as you continue to push upwards, you'll get more scenic shots of Omises. It's a very depressing place, to be fair. This entire area is a refugee camp for people who have run away from the Empire, but this place has seen its damage. It's all survivors, not people living here kind of thing. Everyone that made it to Omises are because they ran away from a destroyed home, not ran away because they were scared of the Empire. The Empire demolished everything that they had and made them run, sometimes barefooted through the snow, just to get to here, this safety haven. This retreat away from the Empire, giving this very somber tone to the entire environment because everyone is worn down, afraid, and just wants to be left alone. There's a lot of little floating islands around the place as well that you can't really interact with, but people will tell you about them if you decide to talk around. You can also find these guys, those small guys standing on the boxes called acolytes, who work for the, well, I say work for, help the Elder. Sorry, I wanted to keep quiet for a bit to just let the somber music do its thing. But over there you'll see a Viera girl who's also left the camp and is kind of chilling here. And she kind of has this negative bias towards the Humes, that all of them are weak or cowardice or fearful for all of them staying up here. If you go through all the hunts of the game, there is a side quest directly linked to her that will educate her essentially on what it is. It's not because people are scared and weak. Well, scared is a part of it, but that's fine. It's not because they're weak that they're here. It's because they don't want to be a part of a war that isn't their business, and the destruction and suffering they have suffered because of it shouldn't have had to happen. And there's a side quest that we'll be doing later on that will help educate her on that, and it's actually interesting enough. That's why I brought it up now. But we've got a pretty lengthy set of cutscenes now, so I'm going to shut up and let them play.
Is he sleeping?
No, my child.
Whoa.
I do not sleep. I dream. For reality and illusion are a duality. Two parts of a whole. Only the mirror of dreams reflects what is true.
Anastasis, your grace. I am
Lay
Ashelia.
down your words. Ashelia, daughter of Ramanas, I have dreamt your dream. Who better to carry on the Dalmascan line than she who bears the Dawn Shard? Your dream of a kingdom restored is known to me.
Grand Kiltias, then give us your blessing. grant the Lady Ash her
I do
accession
not
to the...
suppose this is something you might reconsider. My little Emperor-in-Waiting. You called and I have come.
This is the man I wanted you to meet. Believe it or not, he is a member of the noble house Margrace, rulers of the Rosarian Empire.
I am but one of very, very many. Try as I might, I could not stop this war alone. Thus, I came seeking Larsa's assistance. Alcide Margrace, at your service. To think I stand before the Lady Ash, it is truly an honor. I see it is true after all. Stunning is Dalmasca's desert bloom.
I love Ash's subtle smile. She's enjoying a bit of fun flirting. Even if she's a married woman, she's enjoying just to be complimented.
In Rosaria, Alcide. They dream not of war. Should empire join with empire, the way will open for a new Ivalice in our time.
Grand Kiltias, you speak much of dreams, but in the real world, war is upon us.
Grand Kiltias, I was told my coming here would prevent this war. I was to assume my father's throne and announce the restoration of Dalmasca, treat with the Empire for peace, and persuade the Resistance to stay their hand. I have not come all this way to be asked to reconsider.
A word from you and the Resistance would stop cold, and Rosaria's pretext for joining the war scattered off to the four winds. This was what we had hoped. Alas, circumstances change. A full 2 years have passed since your reported death. Were it to become known you are still alive, I fear it could only worsen our current situation.
Because I am powerless to help.
Nay, in fact it has little to do with you.
Then what? If Lady Ash were to extend her hand in friendship, perhaps I could then persuade the Emperor. His Excellency will solve things peacefully.
The Emperor Gramis is no more. His life was taken.
Father.
What possible cause could we have to lay hand on our Emperor?
A deception and an outrage! The Senate will not stand for this!
A viper amongst our senators?
With Chairman Gregoroth as its head. With what dignity remained him, he confessed to the poisoning and passed his own
A
sentence.
viper with many tails. Much of the Senate is culpable.
We had no choice but to strip the Senate of authority and assign powers of autocracy to myself until such time as order...
Spare me your lies! I see the serpent coiled here before me!
Trace, you speak too freely.
Zargabath! Do not tell me you join in his mama's farce!
With Rosaria poised to invade at any moment, our leader must have a free hand.
The once great House Solidor is now reduced to myself and my dear brother Larsa.
Surely you would not go so far. Vayne Solidor! As Judge Magister and upholder of the law, I hereby place you under arrest.
You misunderstand. Vayne did not make himself autocrat. It was the very Ministry of Law which you serve. Do you see it now, Drace? When you bared your sword at His Excellency, you bared your sword at the law.
You wear the mama's motley well, Bergen. Such strength. Inhuman.
Zargabath, take the Alexander. You will accompany Bergen and bring Larsa back to me.
Sire.
Your Excellency, Lord Larsa was placed under my charge.
Oh? Perhaps you mistook your orders then. I can see no other explanation for why you were reporting and conjecturing on my doings to my late father.
Your Excellency.
A hound begging for scraps at the Emperor's table. Would you serve another master, hound? You may fulfill your duty as Judge Magister before us all. She has been tried and found guilty.
Your Excellency, I beg you reconsider.
Do it. I care not. Live, Gabrantha. Protect the young lord. Protect Lartha.
Forgive me.
Pray be quick.
And so House Solidor lives on.
Let us suppose you approach the Empire with a peaceful resolution. The late Emperor Gramis would have lent you his ear, that much is certain, but we are dealing with Vayne Solidor. Should the princess return, he would claim her an impostor, all to tempt the resistance into battle. Vayne wants this war, that much is certain. As our ill luck would have it, the man is a military genius.
The dreams have told me thus. To reveal yourself would imperil us all. I see war, and Vayne's name writ bold on history's page.
Arcadia's banners fly high. They are making ready for the coming war. According to our latest reports, the Western Armada prepares for war, under Vayne's command, no less. The newly formed 12th Fleet has already been deployed. Oh yes, the Imperial First Fleet stands ready. They'll be underway as soon as the Odin's refit is complete. And there is more. The 2nd Caravan Expeditionary Force is being called in to replace the missing 8th, so there will be no gaps. The largest force ever seen!
And then, the Nethicite is the coup de grace. Grand Kiltius, your grace. I spoke to you of my succession. Let us put that aside. Should I become Queen of Dalmasca now, powerless as I am, I can protect nothing. With a greater power at my disposal, perhaps then.
It is the Nethicite of which you dream?
I require something far greater.
To wield power against power. Truly, the words of a human child.
I am descended from the Dynast King himself.
Indeed. Then you have but one choice. Seek you the other power Wraithwall left.
Does such a thing exist?
Journey across the Paramana Rift to the still shrine of Miriam. There rests the gift he entrusted to the Grand Kiltius of his time. Seek it out. The Sword of Kings can cut through Nethicite. Why he would entrust the power to destroy Nethicite, the instrument of his greatness, to another and not to his own progeny, I cannot say. Awaken Ashelia Benagan, and take up your sword, or your dream will remain but a dream. My dream too fades into day.
And that's why I said get everything you need to get done before you go up here, because now you've lost Larsa. Larsa has left the group. He reasonably is under shock and will eventually go into mourning for his father, so expecting him to want to do anything is unlikely, so he just stayed there in his own stunned silence as we left. But with the Emperor's death, Vayne orchestrated the whole thing. That much was obvious, and Judge Drace even called him out on it, and it's what ended up resulting in her death, because the power Vayne had gained was just too strong at that point. Vayne orchestrated his father's death so he could not only take the throne, but blame it on the Senate, completely dismantling it, so he rules as a dictatorship, not as a parliament, essentially. The entire Senate disbanded, so it's only he and he alone. So he rules at the top, and his judges do his dirty work, like a evil ruler of an actual merciless empire. Which I suppose is one way of gaining power. But Judge Drace, seeing the inhumane nature of what he was doing and the sheer lust for power attempted to step in, but the turn of the wheel had already gone. She wasn't going to win regardless of what she tried. And to be used as an excuse to test Gabrant's loyalty, they had him kill Drace, making it a rather intensive scene as a whole. But also, but now we get to approach the Steel Shrine, and you know I said last part that the game is not so subtle about what's ahead? We just got 2 tourmaline rings, and they are both halving damage from ice. Hint hint. And we got an ice vest earlier as well. Hint hint. The boss at the end of this place is Ice Elemental, and you'll have a far easier time if you keep a hold of that kind of equipment. As we approach the Steel Shrine of Miriam. This place in terms of puzzles is a little bit more of a step up from what we've done, but it's not that bad. I say that there's one puzzle near the end here that if you don't know what you're doing, you might stumble into on your own, but at the same time you might not. So I will be showing you how it works when we get there, because like I said, it's one of those things where you'll either work it out immediately and be like, oh right, yeah, I get that, or you won't get it at all, and you could be there longer than you expect to be there. But there is a save crystal just outside, and then ominous silence waiting for you at the door. There's also another ice shield, you know, just in case that ice resistance is really important to you. Which ends up being a little problematic because, well, firstly only Bash can equip it, and secondly it's weaker than the diamond shield. So it's kind of like, well, I can have it, but it's not quite worth it. What am I doing? Am I trying to buy the next shield? Am I trying to find the next shield? Yeah, I am. I was looking for the next shield, so I'm trying to press to it, so Ash can at least have the ice shield. I'll also get the next stage of Mystic Armor, because you never know when we'll bump into that. Yeah. Because it is better for Ash, it's just not as good for Bash. So after a quick save, it's time to venture in. There are people waiting at the door. If you decide to come here first before going up Omisace, this is as far as you go. You won't be allowed in because these people won't let you. The door won't open. But this place is a beefer. This place is the rest of the video. The Steel Shrine of Miriam. Fun fact, there's actually 2 Espers in this dungeon. One that will be fighting as a boss at the end of it, and one that's actually hidden away that you have to do a side quest for. Well, I say a side quest, it's not a side quest at all. Once you go far enough into the game, if you talk to one of the acolytes of Omisace, he will give you a crystal. You just bring the crystal here and you can fight the thing. But that's not until much later on. There's going to be a rather long stretch of videos at a point where I'm going to be only doing side stuff for like 5 or 6 videos in a row. Also, this pedestal will remain unchanged because we can't interact with it unless we have a particular accessory on. I believe you need to have the Dawn Shard on. Which is why you sometimes see me, like, every time I approach one of these switches, it was the same in Wraithfall's Tomb. Like, you'd see me mess around with things before I'd interact with stuff sometimes, because if you fail it, you get enemies spawning. But what you need to do is equip the Dawn Shard on a character and then interact with it whilst it's on that character. I put it on Barsh because Barsh's MP doesn't matter, because the Dawn Shard does take all your MP, and then it works. And that's how it works for the whole of this place. Any switch you find in the Still Shrine, if you wish to interact with it, you need the Dawn Shard. But interacting with this one here and now will take us on a relatively long-winded path of circling round. Also, yeah, things come around the scenery, I'll talk about that more in a minute. Will eventually lead to a path going round, but allow you to activate certain things to allow the path forward, giving you more accessibility for where you need to go. But yeah, the main thing with the Still Shrine that you need to adjust to pretty quick is that pretty much anything in the scenery can come alive and be a monster, like you just saw of that statue. As you can see, I'm just trying to get my bearings because we've yet to pick up the map. This room over here is actually pretty dangerous as well. If you haven't been side questing, you'll struggle in this room, but you need to kill everything here. Thankfully, I think we've got the disable bolts now, so we are actually being able. We are in a position where we can stop these things dead in their tracks if we get lucky. There's also this treasure chest here, like that gives you countdown, which is pretty cool. I think countdown is Doom. You know, where the skull appears on their head. Well, you're gonna see me look for it. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, I think that is Doom. It puts a skull on them and then puts a timer. When the timer counts down to 0, they die. It's the end. But this is what I mean. Like, you see how these stone heads literally just came out of the pillars in the wall. If you went across the edges of the arena, I can imagine those ones would do the same. Or like this one. I think it's actually quite cool because they make the ones that are actually part of the scenery and the ones that aren't have the exact same textures. So it literally is just to try and catch you by surprise. But you will eventually catch on to, like, there is a sort of pattern compared to how they are and how they come out. And if you pay attention to it, you can work it out. Only the first few should catch you off. Like, both of the ones on this side will come alive as well. That being said, if you know what you're doing, I'd say this place is shorter than Wraithfall's Tomb, but only if you know what you're doing. It's just if you don't, and it's your first playthrough, it probably will take you longer because it's more of an actual puzzle. You have to actually piece everything together and work it out. I think now is when I just decide to leave the Dawn Shard on for the rest of the run through the Still Shrine. So I'm like, it's not going to be worth it. I might as well just leave it. Barsh doesn't need the MP anyway. The only annoying thing is that it also takes away your quickening bars for such. So Barsh can't use his quickenings if the situation arises later on. But that being said, that's never too much of a problem. As long as one person's got a quickening, you could just get lucky with mischarge and get them involved. It's just you're less likely to get as far because the game tends to turn against you luck-wise. Here's your first instance of a crystal gimmick. No, mimic even. But that one's obvious because it's a different colour. You'll spot it and go, that's a different colour from the normal ones, and you'll be able to immediately recognise that it is a mimic. They even try and trick you a little bit by giving it a different name, by saying life crystal. So you're like, oh, green, extra life, or something like that. So you might interact with it. But that's the only one that will play nice. Every single other save crystal mimic that we bump into in the future will either be blue, or even more dastardly, will be orange. The ones that are orange are the most annoying. It's like you can't, like you see them, you're like, oh right, so that's not just a save, that's a save. That's I can quick travel to and from that. That's like a home base. And then you interact with it, it just beats you up. You're like, alright, thanks. That door won't open yet, and it won't for a little while, but if you head over here, there is a mini-boss of sorts waiting for you at the end, which killing, I believe, will open that door, because we can't progress any further onwards where we are. The only problem with this little mini-boss thing is that the fucker likes to teleport everywhere. Like, it'll attack a bit, and then it'll warp really far away to try and avoid you being able to attack it back. But if you hit it with slow, it kind of stays put. But I'm pretty sure that's like the only one here. But if you press down and try to interact with the Sword of Judgment, it won't move right now, despite it blocking our way forward. To which it will then educate you on what you need to do, and will give you the hint to the puzzle of this place. There are 3 statues around a giant circle around this main humongous statue, essentially. You need to get all 3 of those smaller statues to face this big one, and then the sword will lift and will allow you to pass under. So it's pretty simple now, I've just told it to you, but on your first playthrough, if you're not really paying that much attention, or kind of just thinking, oh, I'll just flow my way through it, it'll be fine, you'll probably get a little stuck, or you'll just have to feel your way through, kind of thing. You might not work it out straight away. Thankfully the statues in the main hall, this area, don't really seem to come alive. So you're at least safe here. That being said though, once you finish with this place and leave, like once you've done everything and leave, it will actually alter the spawns of this place for any returning visits. And what I mean by this is that once you're done with the Steel Shrine, if you wish to do any grinding, do it before you go back out the door and the cutscene plays, because as soon as that cutscene plays, the spawns change here to be significantly stronger in preparation for your potential revisit if you're deciding to go for 100%, because you will be coming back here later on. This door, similar to the crystals, will only open if you've got the shard with you, the Dawn Shard. I had to think what it was called. I wanted to say Mist Shard, and it's like, that's not what it is. The Mist stuff is later on. But as I said, there are 3 statues, and they all kind of bend off into extending paths, which you'll eventually see me check, because like, it doesn't come back to me when I was first playing through it. It's a little later on, I'm like, well, oh yeah, hang on a minute, yeah, this was the place with the 3 statues. So I knew it was one of these places, but I just couldn't remember if it was this one or later on. There's also a healthy number of traps around here. Fitting for a big old Steel Shrine tomb thingy-majig, but still, just be wary of your footing, or better yet, make sure you give everything a wide enough berth that your teammates don't just run through it. Because you're probably also, at this point, still adjusting back to only having a party of 3 after being used to having lasted for a while, especially if you've been doing some side questing. As we pick up the ruby ring. Which gives you Reflect, which is dangerous to have. Reflect, any and all magic bounces off you. I've mentioned about it a few times before. That also means healing magic. So if you go to heal yourself, you'll just be healing your enemy. Which is always dangerous. You also got more of these bomb enemies, balloons these ones are called. Which, I think I don't let any of them explode, but even if they do, they're not as dangerous as the very first instance of bombs you can encounter. Back at the Barheim Passage, I think it was called. But those ones, I made a very clear, at least I hope I made a very clear indicator that you should be careful tackling them. Because if they explode back there, because you're so weak, because you're still building your party at that point, they just flatline you. It's ridiculous. But anything afterwards, like the bomb-based enemies, with the exception of one particular one later on, they're no threats anymore. But here's the statue I was on about. You need it to face towards the main statue, which if you forget where it is, just bring up the map. You can see, as long as you're pointing back kind of towards the main room, you're fine. So that way. Also, the mini-map will also remind you of which direction each statue is facing, so you don't need to worry so much about trying to memorize where you've put things if you're trying to work out the puzzle for yourself. Which is just a nice quality of life that they didn't have to do, but I appreciate it. Because the next statue is completely, like, perfectly aligned underneath it, and then the third statue is to the right, facing in as well. Which, to be fair, even if you don't follow the puzzle, like, it shouldn't take you too long to maybe figure out to make them all kind of point to it in the same sort of direction. But it's still... Also, we did just pick up a new item, but I don't think I realised straight away. Like, we just picked up the Enchanter's Habit, I think it was called. Because that's the thing, in tombs as a whole, this applies to another tomb we're going to significantly later on. Their normal enemies have a chance of dropping equipment that could actually be quite handy. Like, there's a lot of areas in the games where enemies can drop equipment pieces, but usually most of them aren't that good. But the ones in the tombs are always kind of the exception. They can actually drop some pretty amazing stuff. Even if we are mostly only facing zombies. Look at our chain going up so high, just because it's just zombies we've been fighting down here. 20, 21. On the plus side, it's boosting our chances of better loot. The one thing I'm surprised about is when it comes to the mimics, it's only with the metal grate chests that we see in like sewers or industrial places that they can become mimics. You never see them for like, more traditional treasure chests, which I would have thought they would have done, because evil ancient tombs is the perfect excuse for traps, and they just only put the explosive red traps around the place. They don't actually do any like any more sneaky traps by having the chests come alive or anything like that here. And like I said, you would have thought they would have. But I guess it's making another monster that has a different design, and I don't know how the end of this game became, because if you look into it, although this game started out on very good footing, by the tail end of its development, hell kind of broke loose with its development, and it's why, like it's a miracle this game got as far as it did at all. But there are a few things in this game as we go on that you like, they probably were going to do a little bit more with this, but didn't get to. Like, this game, it amazes me how fleshed out and complete it is. Like, it's the biggest Final Fantasy, and yet in spite of that, it had a troubled development because of just more interior things going on at Square, resulting in the director of the project eventually leaving just before it was finished. And it's why the very last hunt of the game, which I know I'm talking way ahead of ourselves here, the very last hunt in the game is a giant nod to that director, because it's the first three letters of his first name and the first three letters of his last name, so it becomes Yazmat. But then in the international version, to make it sound more like Tiamat, they added an I, so it became Yzmat. And the hunt itself is called like the end of a legend, because it was someone that the whole team actually kind of respected leaving the studio because of things out of their hand. So the hunt was just a giant respect to him. Which is a shame, because I'd love for him to come back and direct another Final Fantasy, because even if he didn't hit everything perfect in this game, like the gameplay, as much as I enjoyed the gameplay, if you get too powerful, it starts to become a bit stealth. You're not doing much. The game kind of plays itself, especially with the gambit system. If you master the gambit system and get pretty powerful, you'll notice you're not playing that game that much. You're just moving from one place to the next, exploring. So if he had someone else in charge of like gameplay, but he directed like the world design and the story and such, we could have an amazing Final Fantasy game again. And that's not to discredit 13 and 15, because as I've said before, I actually defend both of them. Speaking of 13, that hit its 10th anniversary yesterday, which is wild, because I didn't even realise it turned 10 yesterday. But I'm getting off topic again. Point is, if they could get him back to direct another Final Fantasy, it would be amazing, but I don't think it's ever going to happen because of how relations ended all those years ago. But next it's time to talk about this boss fight. It's not the one in particular I was on about earlier. It's a kind of like a midway boss. But this one also has a gimmick you need to be wary of that can kind of make or break the fight, unless you've been doing the side stuff. If you've been doing some of the side stuff, you're almost definitely going to be a little bit stronger and strong enough to work around the gimmick a little bit more. The gimmick itself is there's a magnetic field around this entire arena, making your equipment heavier. Meaning if you have anything metal, your attack speed's just shrunk down to a crawl. And you're going to see me kind of give a glancing check over, but then not worry about it too much, because with the side stuff we've been doing, look at the damage Ash is doing alone. Despite how much slower everyone is being, Ash is more than enough for this thing. So I instead just focus on trying to slow it down, or speeding up us. So I think I try and speed up Ash when Balthier eventually gets to go, and then just kind of let Ash do the rest of the work. If your entire party's got metallic equipment, then you're going to be in trouble, because it will just take way too long for you to be able to do anything. You will need to try and swap something off. Either that, or if one of you can use magic but you're still being weighed down, just make them go unequipped for a while and just make it so they only use magic in their gambits, and make it so everyone else is just making sure they're still topped up. But with not too much effort, this thing should fall apart and you should be able to continue onwards. As far as I'm aware, or at least as far as I've recorded, this is the only instance of a boss fight that has a metal-based gimmick. Outside of one particular boss we'll be fighting later on that can kind of randomize itself of what curses you have to deal with. Because that gimmick of the boss fight actually having an environmental gimmick becomes more of the Espers kind of thing later on. Like, as we start taking on more and more optional Espers, you'll start to notice that a lot of them will have gimmicks tied to them that directly involve the environment. Like, one of them will have it so your entire party is inflicted with sap no matter what, your health is always draining. One of them will make it where you can't use techniques, which that one you just don't notice, because let's be honest, in boss fights, unless you're using sheer and exposed, which are actually pretty helpful things to use, you're not using techniques late game. That's kind of just the end of it kind of thing. But we just got the Sage's Ring, so I'm going to get back to that point in a second. The Sage's Ring is amazing, reduces the MP cost by half, making every single spell cost half. I immediately pushed to get that on Ash because Ash is my more important magic user right now. However, when when Balthier starts picking it up and it starts doing well, because Ash gets the predominant equipment, meaning her max MP is always going to be higher, I shift it over to Balthier because Balthier's magic becomes equally as important. So you see me kind of push and expand out a little to get the Sage's Ring, and also just pick up some accessories in general while I'm at it. And this is also where I notice, oh, on the Machinist route, the entirety of the Remedy lore is like right there. Like, it's literally, there's 2, there's 3. I can get the whole of the Remedy lore for Ash. If you've got the Machinist for you, that is an amazing thing to get. Getting all 3 pieces of the Remedy lore, as the name implies, means that your Remedy will in fact cure every single status condition, including Doom, Diseased, Sap, Disabled, Immobilize. Like, it will get rid of every negative status condition, allow you to get straight back into the fight where you were. But there's the Sage's Ring. It's a little bit far away, so we can't equip it just yet. And I sort out everyone else's license points later on, because I'm not that fussed right now. But back to the topic at hand, with what I was saying about the gimmicks. Like, there's one later on where it disables your ability to use magic, and that one is just a race against time when we get to that one. Because that one is either you have everyone's gambits, everyone who uses healing, you swap their gambits for high potions or X potions. Because preferably you should have X potions by them because they just heal more. And you just kind of race as far as you can because those potions aren't as effective as healing because they don't heal a whole group, they only heal one person. So you're going to be spam healing a lot more than usual. The one that's probably the ultimate pain in the ass was one later on that I will give special mention to when we get to it, and I'll make sure to highlight again because it really sucks. Especially because you have to do such a long-winded side quest to even get to it, let alone to actually take it on. It disables your ability to use the attack command. As I cut back to that teleporter of me returning back to go under the sword. And so you can only use magic to hurt it, or techniques. Problem being, the only magic it's weak to is Earth. And Earth's the hardest magic spell to get a hold of in the game. It is straight up immune to every other kind of damage. It has 0% damage from everything else. So you just have to kind of wing it or use non-elemental magic because you're almost definitely not going to have earth magic. You might have weapons that have earth elemental tides to it, but that's pretty as close as you're getting. But once you've done all that, this door doesn't require any puzzle to open. As you said, when it read it, it just said wisdom proven. Now it will be testing your strength. So when you go through this door, the main event, the main boss here will awaken. And this is why you wanted all of that ice equipment. Is it clear yet that you needed the ice equipment and that all the ice equipment was teasing was going to be for a purpose? This is an Esper. Our second main game Esper. Not our second that you could possibly have. There's one in the Zertanen Caverns that you could have gone for to get right now, and you'll be going for relatively soon after this. Because we are around the level where we can take it on now. But you're going to see me kind of just go through everything and make sure everyone's kitted out with ice stuff as possible. Give everyone else tourmaline rings. Like, just to reduce the ice damage. Like, Ash has it even better because she's taking a quarter ice damage because she's got 2 ice-based bonuses. And then we press on. Just don't equip an ice sword. It will drain ice damage. And before you freak out and go, oh shit, she's just summoned ice elementals. They're far, far, far weaker than anything you've faced up until this point. It's because you have to fight them. You can't avoid these elementals. So they're far inferior to what you've done. The only thing that makes them annoying is that they like to spam sleep, and if they can put you to sleep, you're not doing much in the fight because you're sleeping. Also, this thing is weirdly weak to electric. Like, you'd think it'd be weak to fire, but it kind of isn't. Because you're seeing everyone spam Thunderer. Well, I say everyone. You're seeing Balthier spam Thunderer. Because it's what it's weak to, and it's like, I've always just found that weird, because you would assume Ice Demon, it would be weak to fire, but it's not. There's a different Esper later on that's weak to fire. Also, you see me quickly check to see if I have any kind of haste mote, but I don't. I think that's my own personal problem that I keep on doing in this game, and if you're following along, try not to do it as much as I do. Instead of, because we don't have haste to go, so I can't just put haste on the whole party in one strike, I like to use haste and hastiger motes because they can put it on the whole party in one strike. Also, here's Blizzagia, so get ready for that, because it is going to hurt, especially if you have anyone weak to ice. But if you've got anyone equipped with ice, it really shouldn't be a problem. The only thing you need to be wary of is that later on it will eventually cast Reflect on itself, and so that electric spam that you're doing is only going to be hurting yourself, which is what you're seeing right now, and I just didn't notice straight away. I didn't spot it cast Reflect, so I just let Balthier carry on. If I'd noticed sooner, I would have taken off his gambit. But it's only in the post-recording where I'm not concentrating on the fight itself that I spot the text in the corner easier, and so spotted that it can cast Reflect. But congratulations, you've taken on your second mandatory Esper. If you're following along, that is. I say that way too much. I need to try and deter away from that. It's just I know this game can be quite complicated at points, and there's a lot to do, so people are going to be watching this more than any other project I've done if they are going to watch one of my projects, just because there is stuff that I might be able to help you through because I've got experience in this game. But I will try and make an effort to not bring it up so much as we get the Esper Matthias to corrupt. Or Matthias. Oh, Matthias. And now everyone's like, at this one I'm like, okay, everyone can go back to what you were on now. Everything's fine. God, I still have Ash on double license points. Ugh. That's the thing, because I've recorded so far ahead, I'm looking back on some of my earlier decisions in this project, and I'm just like, she doesn't need the license points right now. Like, I think I'm only giving them to her so I can try and get her to Sage Ring as soon as possible. But Balthier needs it more. Oh, I did give Balthier the embroidered Tepic, good. I was wondering when I was going to do that because I knew I needed him to start catching up in levels. To be fair, he is pretty much caught up. I just want his actual like raw experience to be caught up, because right now Ash is still going to level up a long time before he does. But this is what I do every time I get a new Esper. I actually run through the board and see what each path goes to, because Espers will actually open up new paths. So with Balthier here, I can get extra hand bombs if I so choose it. So I check with Barsh. I'm like, okay, what can he give? That one is empty. And that one leads to Curiga, Regen, and Asunaga. You can see me wait a while on this one because I was very tempted to just give him some basic white magic. But in the same vein as Cecil's white magic in Final Fantasy IV, I was kind of like, it would be worthless on Basch. Like, it would be, I should have, like, in hindsight, and if you're following along doing the same project, you probably should. But I was kind of like, nah, it won't really be that worth it, because his magic stat won't be good enough to make anything of the healing magic anyway. So what would be the point? Like, I wouldn't be using it anyway. So I eventually, like, move away from it and just decide to leave it. In the actual boss arena, though, you can get a bubble mote. And bubble is an amazing status condition. Bubble doubles your maximum health if you've got it on. And the reason why you saw me head towards that trap but hesitate anyway is because that was the trap that I mentioned in a couple parts ago. That's always a healing one. But I, just happened to doubt myself when I was approaching it. But I was like, I'm pretty sure this is the one that heals you. No matter what you're doing or where you are. That one always heals you. Because it's just to help you with the fight if you get stuck. You can just whack it and it'll help you out. But we've got another cutscene, so I gotta shut up again.
You should try it on the Dawn Shard. See if it can destroy Nethicite or not.
What?
He just may be onto something. The Dawn Shard's no use to us, after all.
The stone bleeds mist.
It has been roused. It fears the sword. The stone is quiet.
This is the sword, the Nethicite destroyer.
Should it find its mark?
Vaughn! Tell me, did you see him again?
I didn't. Not a thing. Not even my brother. Not anything.
Alright, Vaughn, I think she got the message. How many times do you need to say no? But anyway, we've got the Sword of Kings, and the interesting thing with it is that it's not a key item. It's actually a weapon you can equip. But because it's a plot-based weapon and not something that is like just something you can pick up or something you can buy, it's not tied to any license, meaning literally anyone in your party can equip it at any point. And because Penelo gets kind of like the third hand magic stuff, because it goes to Balthier second then her third, she ends up being in a position where if I hover over and optimize, the game tries to get me to equip it, which I found kind of funny. Then you just give the girl like this gargantuan sword that's like the size of her. But anyway, as the Empire flies overhead, highlighting that they've been here, don't worry, they're not capturing us a third time. They're just they've just been here, so we need to go find out what they've done and probably turn back to Bert Omisace. I'm going to let the rest of this cutscene play out and see you next time. So that'll be it. So next time on Final Fantasy XII, we'll be returning to Mount Bert Omisace to find out what they've done. Because there's no way they went all that way in this big ass Imperial fleet to just pick up Larsa. They did something. We need to go see what. But until then, you guys take care now.
There.
Smoke.
What could it mean?